in America in unionized plants, but not plants that are not unionized. This is really an incredibly partisan and, in my opinion, corrupt piece of legislation. And I give Manchin credit for having sworn, he says in his op-ed, I swore an allegiance to the nation and the fidelity of its constitution, not to a political party. I wish we saw more people in Washington who understood when elected to office, America comes first.
Ken, it appears the federal government is going to have a bigger problem on its hands than whether to pass the infrastructure bill or whether to pass the spending bill far sooner, and that has to do with the possibility that in days from now the United States will breach the debt ceiling and technically, if you will, default. What if that happens?
Wow. You know, we played this game of chicken before, and every time somebody blinks, and I hope that cooler minds prevail, and we blink again before we go over the cliff. I do think the Democrats have a responsibility to push the solution to this problem forward. It's their profligate spending that is causing so much unrest within the moderates of their party across the Republican flank. They need, if they're going to try to push a $3.5 trillion spending bill, they should be pushing first and foremost the solution to the debt ceiling issue. They've got to give on this front.
Not the Republicans, not Senator McConnell.
Look, I think Senator McConnell's in a really tough spot to be put, like, you're supposed to sign off on a spending bill that not one member of your party approves of. This is at the table right now.
Ken, a few questions for you about the markets in which your companies operate. Citadel Securities is at the center of the debate over so-called payment for order flow, or buying the right to execute buy and sell orders from brokerages such as Robinhood or Charles Schwab. And it's one of the reasons that you had to testify before Congress over the GameStop situation earlier this year. To those uninitiated, payment for order flow is why retail investors can effectively trade for free. But critics argue that there's nothing free about it, and the hidden costs of why firms like yours are making so much money, hidden costs, excuse me, are the reason firms like yours are making so much money as market makers. I'm not going to get into that debate over whether it is beneficial or whether it's not beneficial. We can litigate that elsewhere. But there is, Ken, a renewed interest in Washington in regulating payment for order flow. And I'd like to know what's at stake for Citadel Securities if payment for order flow were banned.
Let us hope that in Washington we maintain the status quo, that brokerage firms have a duty to secure the best execution they can for their customers. That's the basis on which we compete. That's the basis on which we win. Now, let's take a step back. Payment for order flow is a cost to me. So if you're going to tell me that by regulatory fiat that one of my major items of expense disappears, I'm okay with that.
You would be quite fine if payment for order flow were to disappear tomorrow.
At 100,000 feet, I'm quite fine with that, so long as we leave the standard that execution quality is how orders should be allocated amongst market centers. Now, having said that, I think that the diminution of participation in our capital markets from the reintroduction of commissions would be a huge loss. I hat off to the team at Schwab, which is now Schwab Ameritrade or E-Trade or Robinhood, for really democratizing finance in America. It hasn't all been good, but it's been really good in broad strokes. And free trading has been a big part of the story. The cost of trading has come down dramatically since I was in college. I used to spend $20 or $30 a trade. Now you can trade for free. And work by firms like Citadel Securities made that a reality. So from my vantage point, we want to hold on to this democratization of finance that's taken place. If payment for order flow helps to maintain that as a reality, I think that's good for everybody. But from my vantage point, having one of my major cost lines eliminated, I'm going to be a winner in that scenario. So I find this to be a very curious debate that we're seeing unfold in Washington, because as I testified, all I want to know is what are the rules of the road. If I have to drive on the left, I'll drive on the left. If I have to drive on the right, I'll drive on the right. Just tell me how you want me to drive.
Others would love to know what you think about crypto. Cryptocurrencies have become a $2 trillion market. And a number of other big trading firms, including those in this town, such as DRW and Jump Trading, are making a big push into crypto. Do you believe in crypto? And even if you don't, Ken, should your businesses be active investors or traders in crypto anyway?
That is a great question. So first and foremost, I wish all this passion and energy that went into crypto was directed towards making the United States stronger. I mean, let's face it, it's a jihadist call that we don't believe in the dollar. I mean, what a crazy concept this is, that we as a country embrace so many bright, young, talented people to come up with a replacement for our reserve currency, which helps to make our standard of living a reality and accrues incredible benefits back to our country. Let's replace the dollars, the global reserve currency, with Bitcoin. That's a brilliant idea. By the way, let's go ahead and build several hundred new power plants that produce an unbelievable amount of carbon to make that dream a reality. I think I maybe just told you how I feel about crypto.
No, could you please be a little more explicit?
So I will have so much hate mail in my inbox and on my Twitter account in about 30 minutes, I can't count it. But we don't trade crypto because of the regulatory uncertainty. We often make markets in companies whose business models I don't really have fondness for, because one of our jobs as a market maker is to meet the liquidity demands of American families that want to invest in X, Y, or Z. And frankly, it's not my job to tell them if they're right or wrong. It's my job to provide them with the best possible price. Because of the lack of regulatory certainty around cryptocurrency, we just aren't involved today. And I really believe that Chairperson Gensler is spot on the need to have thoughtful regulation around cryptocurrency. I actually think that doing so will make it a smaller market, because it'll become a far more competitive market when there's regulatory clarity. And that will be good. A smaller market, less people involved who are frankly just trying to make a quick buck. And whatever the virtues are of that product, and I think those are pretty nebulous, will become very different in a world of competitive exchanges and competitive pricing by tier one market makers willing to put their best foot forward. So I really believe that Chairperson Gensler is spot on the need for regulation. And the SEC's got a solid history of writing good regulatory policy.
To be clear, though, if it were regulated, you would trade it?
I would trade it because it would meet the needs of our online brokerage partners who want to have a tier one firm making prices. I mean, part of the reason that we are so significant in retail market making is our incredibly high reliability. We're there every day and every minute of every day. And we provide a great service every day and every minute of every day. And they want us to provide pricing in crypto. I just don't want to take on the regulatory risk in this regulatory void that some of my contemporaries are willing to take on.
Ken, when you last spoke here at the Economic Club of Chicago in 2013, you described this as a city and state, and I'm quoting you directly, with broken schools, bankrupt pensions, rising crime, a declining tax base, and public corruption. Here we are. It's 2021, 8 years later. How's Chicago doing? Better or worse?
No, I can't believe I actually gave that quote, because the bottom line is it's even worse. It's even worse. Since I last spoke in 2013, 25,000 of my fellow Chicagoans have been shot. And it is a disgrace that our governor will not insert himself into the challenge of addressing crime in our city. It is a disgrace. I was on a call with him back in the height of the civil unrest and arguing with him to declare a state of emergency to deploy the National Guard. Now, the governor and I don't really get along in very much, as you might imagine, given some of the ballot initiatives that haven't gone his way. But I told him to deploy the National Guard, and he goes, it won't look good for there to be men and women on Michigan Avenue with assault weapons. If that saves the life of a child, I don't care. And he doesn't care. So we have our work cut out for us because we have a government in our state that continually puts votes in front of people, votes in front of lives, votes in front of schools, and we need to start to take the state back inch by inch from people that put their politics first and put our people second. And I definitely will not be getting a fruit basket this year.
Of course, we're here not just to talk about problems, Ken. We're here to talk about solutions. Give me 3 suggestions, the 3 most critical steps that the elected leadership in this city and this state, Mayor Lightfoot and Governor Pritzker, should take to reverse Chicago's slide.
We have known what to do since I spoke in 2013. We've known what to do since the start of this century. That's what makes this so frustrating. We need to reform our pensions to make the state fiscally sustainable. I do not see why new state employees are not put into Social Security like the rest of us. And to the extent that we want to augment their pensions, we have a defined contribution plan like the rest of us in this room have. That gets our spending under control in the long run. Number 2, and this is a far more recent problem, we need to support our colleagues in public safety, our police force. We need them. We need our police officers to know that they are also entitled to the benefits of being an American citizen, that you are innocent until proven guilty. It's incredibly hard to do your job as a police officer if the moment you have to protect yourself, you have to wonder, will you go to jail? Will you lose your job? Will you be publicly persecuted and humiliated before any of the facts come forth? And that's where you are as a Chicago police officer today, and it's just wrong. Now, this is no excuse for the acts of police brutality that have taken place in our city and across the country. But we need our police officers who have our backs on the street to feel like we have their backs in doing their job. And third is we need to fix our schools. I spoke about it earlier. Chicago continues to have a very short school day, a very short school year. And we now have children who have lost a full year of learning due to the pandemic. And there's no real plan to put them back on track. And we need to deal with that issue. And we need to deal with it here and now.
Ken, at the risk of being blunt, why are you still here in Chicago? And why are Citadel and Citadel Securities still here in Chicago?
We're just on the cusp of incredible changes to sports entertainment and fan experience. Imagine if there was a 5G chip in a player's helmet. Could you experience that? Yes, those things are real.
So much violence. I mean, Chicago's like Afghanistan on a good day. And that's a problem.
You just mentioned New York.
I mean, I'll put this in black and white. I probably had 25 bullet shots in the glass window of the retail space in the building I live in. They tried to carjack the security detail that sits outside my house. That didn't go so well for the carjacker. But it just tells you like how deep crime runs in this city. There is nowhere where you can feel safe today walking home at 9:30 at night. And you worry about your kids going to and from school. That's no way for our city to exist. And it's really hard to recruit people to Chicago when they read the headlines, they know the facts. I can't look people in the eye like I did 20 years ago. 20 years ago, this is a great place to raise a family. This is a great place to call home. And I could say that with a genuineness that resonated with people, and they would bring their wives and children here, or their husbands, as the case may be. I can't give that same speech today. I can't in good conscience.
So for how much longer is this the global headquarters for Citadel?
It's probably measured in years, not decades, if we don't change course.
You mentioned the jobs you created in New York. And that's because, I presume, New York offered something of an antidote to the dysfunction you've just described in Chicago. Do you still believe as strongly that New York is the antidote?
You guys need some new medicine too, because some of the same problems that we have faced is now unfolding in New York. And I hope that the new mayor-elect will understand that when they look across the country and see what's happened in Detroit,
This dude is
or
sweating
here in our
so
great
fucking
city,
hard, it's
the path
ridiculous.
New York's on is a scary path.
Like, dude, this guy's retarded. Chicago's like
And this is
Afghanistan.
where Giuliani and
Fucking on
Bloomberg
drugs,
get so
dude.
much credit.
That's from a
In
drug
cleaning up
addict.
crime, you can have a great global city.
This may be the same question asked two ways. Where are business conditions in this country best? And where are you doing most of your hiring today?
Those are two very different questions.
Where are we doing most of our hiring? We look at
business
the
conditions in
SEC,
this
past
country
employees. We
are
look at other,
definitely far stronger
regulatory
across
bodies, and we
most of
hire
the
from
Sunbelt
there.
states.
I'll answer it for
Less
you, Ken.
regulation,
Fucking loser.
less taxes, a workforce that generally is very much of the ethos of, I'm here to earn it. The northern cities still have a phenomenal advantage. In Chicago, it's called University of Chicago. It's Northwestern. In New York, it's Columbia. It's Yale. In Boston, it's Harvard. Our great universities are epicenters of success, the Silicon Valley and Stanford. And those schools anchor our great northern cities. The South doesn't have that yet writ large. But as that changes over the years to come, as universities in the South continue to get stronger, University of Texas at Austin, or Rice, or Georgia Tech, which is unbelievably good, you're going to see the balance of power shift from the North to the South as the ease of doing business in the South triumphs the richness of human capital that is created by the great schools in the North.
Okay, that's the first question. Where are you doing all your hiring?
We are doing our hiring now all over the country. New York's still a huge source of hiring for us.
Doing it all over
Chicago's
the country.
become
Just
smaller
all
on a relative
regulatory
basis.
ex-employees is the only
And then
qualification we look for.
We are about to sign an office space in Miami. And that will be for quite a bit of square footage, and we are going to have a lot of people living there.
Earlier today, you said it breaks your heart to be so personally and financially engaged in politics, that you wouldn't do it if you didn't have to, in other words. What is your personal philosophy on political engagement? When will you spend your money and why to fight political battles? And is there a limit to the distance you'll go?
We went pretty far in the fair tax bill, if I may say so.
For those who... I should explain, for those who don't know, both Governor Pritzker and Ken here spent in excess, if I'm not mistaken, of $50 million of their own money fighting a bill over a graduated tax rate. And the proposal was defeated, which is to say you and your allies in that respect were victorious.
We resoundingly defeated the governor.
No
and we
way.
did for one simple reason.
Ken Griffin won the court
And
case?
resounding is the right
No
choice
way.
of words, too. He's not coming for just the rich, he's coming for everybody. The graduated tax bill in Illinois was just another mechanism to take more money from the hands of hardworking Illinois families and put it into the corrupt coffers of Springfield. And I know every person in this room would sign up for higher taxes if it meant reform of our pension plans and an end to corruption. I know every person in this room
Yeah, I'm
would
sure
agree with
everybody in that room would, because
And we've
everybody in that
seen-
room's probably a rich piece of shit that doesn't currently pay taxes. But how about the middle class? When we go for it, you
And I
fucking
met with the
loser?
governor on this very issue.
Douchebag.
And he talked about taking $50 million out of the IT budget. $50 million in a state that has a $240 billion problem. He lives in a different reality. I mean, if you look at this state, Exelon just got a $700 million bailout for its nuclear fleet, having admitted it was engaged in corruption just a few months ago. There is no ends to the amount of corruption that takes place in Illinois, and it loses the credibility of Springfield and of the House of the governor. So Illinois has to put its house in order, and we've got to do it quickly, because every single day that slips through our fingers, the liabilities get bigger and the ability to change the course gets smaller.
Just the fact that
And I
Citadel's
really
been replying
hope,
on
and
Twitter,
this
the
is what
fact he
kills me.
goes, we need to do a
J.B.
fucking quick
Pritzker,
little
Governor
interview.
Pritzker
Dude, clearly they're freaking
understands
out.
the math.
Fucking Citadel douchers.
He understands the issues. I can't believe you won't actually use the stunning amount of political capital he had to fix the problem.
Yeah, I love how he's talking about other people's corrupt cases.
The
Not
truth of
his
the
own. I
matter,
love
of
it.
course, Ken, is that
Everyone else is the
for the
problem.
time being and for all intents and purposes, the Democratic Party controls politics in this state and this city. What is the future for that party, and who will you support in the race for governor?
So that's unclear at this point in time. We're at the early days of the race. And to be clear, the Democrats have had, I mean, Rahm Emanuel in his office had 4 photos from his days in the White House administration. 4. One was when we signed NAFTA, one of the great accomplishments of North America. No one in this room has ever woken up and said, I'm worried about going to war with Canada or Mexico. Now, think about that for a second. How many countries in the world can you say the citizens of that country have never had that fear? Like, you've never woken up and said, we might go to war with the Canadians. I'll guarantee you that. But you can't say that if you're in Europe. You can't say that if you're in Asia. I mean, could you imagine living in South Korea and you have the risk of nuclear annihilation every day from your neighbor to the north? So in Rahm Emanuel's office, NAFTA, welfare reform. Ready for the next one? This next one's breathtaking. A balanced budget at the federal level. We've had great leadership from the Democratic Party over the years on important issues. It's not just one party can do this and the other can't. It's about the leadership in the party fighting the fight for what's right. This is where President Biden has to hold the line against the socialist wing of his party and reject the $3.5 trillion stimulus bill. He knows. He knows that's the right thing to do. And so I've supported people from both parties in races across the country, Democrats and Republicans. I don't care about the sticker on your back. I care about how you're going to play on the field and what you're going to stand for as a politician.
Ken, you spoke favorably about your interactions with the Trump administration and recalled the one time in which you spoke out publicly against the president. Would you support Donald Trump if he runs again for president in 2024?
I think it's time for America to move on. The 4 years under President Trump were so pointlessly divisive, it was not constructive for our country. And I never actually financially supported the president. He called my office, or not he, but one of his fundraisers did, one of his very senior fundraisers who I knew. And I opened with, I grew up in South Florida. And I found it incredibly offensive as attacks on the Hispanic community. Because in South Florida, when you grow up there, those are the people that build your houses, they serve your food at restaurants, and they were my teammates on the soccer field. And I was so appalled by his willingness to play identity politics that I was never willing to support him. Now, his economic policies, by and large, were pretty damn good for America. But his willingness to attack people on the basis of where they came from or the color of their skin was completely inappropriate, and we need to put that chapter in American history behind us.
You've recently, well, over the past several months, let's put it that way, been giving significant amounts of money to Governor DeSantis, not directly to him, of course, in Florida. Is he your pick to be the Republican nominee?
We'll see how Governor DeSantis traverses the next year as governor before we'll come to a conclusion. Out of the gate, he did an incredible job of protecting the retirees in South Florida, or all Florida, from COVID. I mean, just knocked the ball out of the park. And what amazed me was how much praise Cuomo got in New York for managing the pandemic, and how much DeSantis was attacked. And I think the record bears it out that in the early days of the pandemic, the team in Florida did a great job of protecting our most vulnerable. Just a great job. I've been frustrated, and we have been very clear in this frustration. I've been frustrated with his position on masks because it has overshadowed his messaging on vaccinations. He's caught himself up in a political maelstrom of putting the concept of personal freedom first and foremost around masks. And I understand the principle, but Florida's a really diverse state. He should have let each county make a decision on its own. Palm Beach, everyone would wear 3 masks if they could. And in the panhandle, no one would wear a mask. Florida is like a microcosm of America. And he should have respected the passion that this issue would have had amongst his citizens. And in this sort of giant political mess he's made, he's lost the messaging point, and he's been really good on this about the importance of vaccines. You know, we pushed him hard to try to go out there and make it clear Florida would be the first state to have booster shots for retirees. I mean, I think that's a really great talking point for somebody looking to run for president, is to make it clear that you will do whatever it takes to protect our most vulnerable. And I think he's lost that window of opportunity. He's got 12 more months to show how strong he can be as governor, and let's be clear, he's super sharp. He's done a phenomenal job of getting Florida's economy through this pandemic. We've had an outcome with COVID in that state that's lackluster, unfortunately. But I think people that live in the state feel like they've really had their personal rights respected. And that came down to a very central point around the whole pandemic from day one. From my vantage point, America had 2 choices, and I told this to the president. We can declare war on the virus like they did in South Korea.
He is in his body
and we can do
when he
whatever
talks.
it takes to contain it, like they did in South Korea, or Taiwan, or Israel.
Yeah, the sweat on his face
Or we're
is
going to have to
fucking
accept that we're
hilarious.
going to look like some form of Sweden. And with that goes the significant cost of life. And we never picked a path in America. In some sense, got the worst possible outcome you could ever get by not picking a path. We got the economic damage of having no strategy and a loss of life that wasn't meaningfully different than Sweden. But holistically, our country wasn't willing to declare war against COVID-19. One of the areas that we funded right out of the gate was for contact tracing for cell phones to mirror what they were doing in South Korea. And the pushback from big tech was like getting slammed by a tidal wave. It doesn't fit the marketing motto of privacy. Marketing motto, for God's sake, like we are being attacked by a virus that is going to kill hundreds of thousands of Americans, and you're worried about your marketing motto? The country lost this battle in the first attack.
Well, you're
when we
busy
weren't willing
worrying
to
about
do what it
shorting
took
that
to
and
shut down
destroying the rest of the
America,
economy, and you're worrying
truly
about what that
contain
guy's worrying about, dude?
COVID-19,
You're doing
and
it
then we get back
5,000
on our
times
feet.
worse shit than that
And
fucking
we've all
clown.
paid just a catastrophic price as a result.
Ken, we have had a conversation.
We have
everyone
to end
would
on a different
agree.
note, too, because that's like such a downer.
And we are about to end on a different note, everybody. We had a conversation that I know everyone would agree has been profound and, as advertised, provocative. But I would be remiss here in Chicago if I didn't ask you whether the Bears should move from playing in the city to Arlington Heights.
I so hope they stay in Chicago. I see it as I lose my friends one by one from this great city. It's really strange.
He's
to be
losing
home on
all
a
of his
Tuesday night
friends.
and not
Oh
have
no,
somebody to call to
Ken!
dinner with.
What are you gonna do?
But that's the reality that I live in. I can't tell you how many of my friends are now holding in their wallets licenses from Florida, from Colorado, from Wyoming, from all over the country other than Chicago.
Oh, my friends have more licenses than me.
And
Oh,
the
poor
combination
Ken.
of crime and a state tax that's incredibly higher than most states, people just don't want to call this home as they get older. And so not only are we losing a generation, and a really important generation of business leaders, we're losing the wisdom that goes with that community. And that wisdom is not just in the form of mentoring young professionals. And in this room is Andy McKenna. And I remember when I was in my 30s, Andy took me out to lunch. I'd never met him. To talk to me about the rich heritage of this city, where the baton is passed from one generation to another in terms of civic responsibility and duty. It was an incredibly touching gesture and moment. And he made it really clear that as an up-and-coming business leader, there are high expectations of how you will impact the city we live in. But as we lose our fellow
It's
Chicagoans,
like, how about you stop
Andy
acting this
McKenna,
piece of
to
shit
other
about all this
places in
other
this
crap and
country,
get to the stock
we
market
lose
questions,
that
dude. Then
ethos
just
of
roll
what
in the
has
stock
made
market.
Chicago such an incredible success
No one
story.
cares about your opinion on governors,
And
fucking
I'm
loser.
gravely concerned.
I don't
about
like these
that.
governors. They don't let me pay
We're
them
just
to
on the
fucking
cusp
bend the rules.
of
We know,
incredible
Ken.
changes to sports entertainment and fan experience. Imagine if there was a 5G chip in a player's helmet. Could you experience that? Yes, those things are real.
The Economic Club of New York, Griffin, touching on a number of topics, including crime and violence in Chicago. He also said a transitory inflation call is, quote, a big bet, and he said stimulus has destroyed the incentive to work. Griffin also referenced former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, the founder and majority owner of Bloomberg LP, the parent of Bloomberg Radio. It is a down day on Wall Street. Stocks are declining as a sell-off in tech shares resumes amid the threat of persistently high inflation. S&P 500 fell more than 1%. Right now, the S&P, in fact, is down 1.4%, dipping below its 100-day moving average. The NASDAQ 100 index right now is down 2.3%. The Dow's down 345, down 1%. NASDAQ is down 320, a drop of 2.2%. 10-year down 430 seconds, 10-year yield 1.47%. We've got gold up 0.3%, 1766 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 2.4%, 77.66 a barrel. Recapping 10-year yield 1.47%, S&P down 62, a drop of 1.4%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Right, so this was all just a stunt to fucking.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Messer and Bloomberg Quick Takes Tim Stenovic on Bloomberg.
Yeah, I think that shit's done, guys. I just wanted to go ahead and put that up for everybody. I don't know if I'm not gonna really look at shit today, but I just want to throw that up for everybody just so you guys could take a quick gander at what Kenny G here has to say. But alright, guys, thank y'all for stopping by. I'll put a couple new videos up here pretty quick. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.